First, before I get started, I want to congratulate Matt Ryan on having a really good career. The dude finally officially retired a couple days ago. Atlanta Falcons legend, no matter what happened in the Super Bowl and all that, the dude is probably going to end up going to the Hall of Fame. So I want to offer him his congratulations first, but getting into real business, the Falcons had a really good offseason, folks. They signed Kirk Cousins, they've got Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, they have a budding receiver in Drake London. However, there's one question that remains. It's who in the world do the Atlanta Falcons draft? What happens? Me, I've got a couple ideas for that. Now, my first guy that I think the Hawks need to be looking out for is Malik Neighbors. I am a huge fan of Malik Neighbors. The dude had 89 receptions, over 1,500 yards, and 14 touchdowns. I like Drake London. I do not think Drake London is a number one receiver. Malik Neighbors would do wonders for this offense. His route running is elite. He's got 4.3 speed. His hands are amazing. And he will have a lot, and I mean a lot of success with the talent around him. Like, imagine you got Malik Neighbors, then you got Pitts, then you got London. That's a lot for a defense to have to handle. Him next to Drake London and Kyle Pitts would be something I pay to see. And mind you, we still have Bijan Robinson in the backfield. In my opinion, that is a very dangerous and probably, if everything mixes right, that could make for almost an unstoppable offense. Now, there is a need for a wide receiver in Atlanta, a major need. And while people may not think so, I think that Atlanta needs a wide receiver, probably even worse than they need a defensive end. Now, there may be a couple future superstars in this draft. I think personally, Malik Neighbors is one of the best wide receivers that I've seen over the last couple of years. I think this is a dream scenario for Atlanta. I love Marvin Harrison too. But Marvin Harrison's not going to get down to the 8th pick. We'll be lucky if Marvin Harrison goes out of the top 5. It's just not going to happen. Malik Neighbors is our next best option. I'm a big fan of him as well. Now, number 2 is Dallas Turner. It seems like everyone in the world thinks that Atlanta is going to select Dallas Turner. That's another need for Atlanta. They need a pass rusher. They haven't really had an elite pass rusher since Vic Beasley back in 2016 when they went to the Super Bowl and lost. But we're not going to talk about that. Dallas Turner is athletic. He's dominant. He's everything you look for in an edge rusher. The man is 6'4", 245, incredibly athletic with a 4.40 time and a 40-inch vertical. If Atlanta does not get a wide receiver, this is the next best option. Any other draft that's not stacked with quarterbacks and stacked with skill positions, Dallas Turner is probably a bona fide top 5 pick. It's another need for Atlanta. It's a player that can grow into a superstar. He's super athletic. He can put up the stats to back it up. As a matter of fact, he put up the stats at Alabama to back it up. I think if you do not get a wide receiver, this is the next best option. Now, my third pick, he's going to go into the later rounds, but Ricky Parcell out of Florida. I'm a massive fan of him. He had 65 receptions last year, 900 yards, almost 1,000 yards actually, and 4 touchdowns. I'm a huge fan of this man being in the slot for Atlanta. Taking him in the 2nd through 4th round, in my opinion, is a major win. He's 6'1", runs a 4.4, has a 41-inch vertical. He's got fantastic ball skills. He's a pristine route runner. He has great hands. Now, he's not going to be a number 1 receiver, right? There is some special about him, and there's some not special about him, right? I like him as a prospect. I like him in the slot. I don't like him as your 1 receiver, right? He has more straight line speed. He's not a twitchy, smaller guy. He's not somebody who will run those routes very twitchy, right? He runs those routes kind of with technician. Think of a kind of a Danny Amendola-ish type of guy. I don't know if that's the best comparison, but that's kind of the guy that comes to my mind. Somebody who is going to produce, somebody who's going to be a really good receiver at the next level, and somebody who can be an elite number 3 wide receiver in the NFL. Now, going to number 4 is a guy who I actually watched at Georgia for the last 2 years. He's a dog, Javon Bullard. Stats this year, he had 56 tackles, 5 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and a tackle for loss. And while the stats may not pop off the board, if you watch UGA, you know how impactful this guy was for the defense. Again, getting him between the 2nd or 4th round, or even late in the 1st if Atlanta decides to trade back, we have to see what's going to happen, because apparently they have an investigation going on saying that Atlanta did tampering with the Kirk Cousins thing, and yeah, that's not too nice, so we may actually end up losing a 2nd or 3rd pick, maybe even worse, but we're still working with the same now, so stay with me here. Javon Bullard, he's fantastic. I think he can be a major steal. He runs close to a 4.5, which is a little bit concerning because you like your safety to run a much faster time, but he's explosive. He's agile. He can do everything when it comes to being a safety. And he shows up in the big games. Against TCU in the national championship, he showed up. Against Tennessee in that big game in which Tennessee was #1, Georgia was #3 a year ago or 2 years ago. He showed up in that game, and he can hit really, really hard. He flies to the ball. He's got great instincts, great skills. Not sure if he will be a superstar at the next level, but the guy can play a great role on the defense, and those role players are equally vitally important, or as important as your superstars are, especially in a game like football. Now, going to my next guy and my last guy for this video, my fifth option, but somebody who I think is actually way better as a fifth option. It's the other wide receiver from LSU, Brian Thomas. Now, the stats for Brian Thomas, again, he was kind of the second guy to Malik Neighbors, so his stats are a little bit deflated, but still, being a second option, putting up 68 receptions, almost 1,200 yards, and 17 touchdowns, that's elite. And Brian Thomas is a bigger receiver. The guy is nearly 6'4", and he runs a 4.3. He lined up on the other side of Malik Neighbors, and those two, again, they absolutely dominated college football last year. Him and Drake London have the potential to dominate on the outside. Because you've got Drake London, who is, 6'5", nearly 6'6", big wide receiver, possession guy. But then you have Brian Thomas, who's a little bit more of a burner. He's a dominant red zone threat. He's a beast with a jump ball. He's very physical. He can dominate cornerbacks off the line as he did in college. Now, I'm not too sure about his route running, right? Of course, bigger receivers don't tend to be too route running savvy, and that is the case with Brian Thomas. He's not somebody who's going to break your ankles on a route. He's not somebody who's going to get twitchy on a route. He's not someone who's going to do it pretty on a route. But he is good enough to get some separation. Again, late first round or second round pick is what I'm thinking for this guy. I think he has some really good athleticism. I think he has really good potential. But if you ask me, I also think he has really, really high upside. If he learns how to run routes better, if he learns the intricacies of the game, I believe Brian Thomas can develop into a true star wide receiver. Seeing him at LSU being that big, that physical, that fast, and that good of a red zone threat, I think it's really, really hard to pass up on that, especially with the wide receivers LSU has produced over the last couple years. I mean, of course you have Odell way back in 2013, but I'm talking about the recent guys. I'm talking about Justin Jefferson. I'm talking about Jamar Chase, those guys who have come into the NFL and become superstars. And Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, while they may not be cold hard copies of those guys, I can definitely see these guys making a nice impact on a team out of the gate in the league. These guys are going to be incredible, and I'm really excited to see what they can do. But of course, that's going to end this video. Thank you for watching. I'm really excited for the NFL draft. I'm really excited to see who the Atlanta Falcons pick and how they're going to impact our team next year. It's looking like a good year, though. I think the Falcons have a really good roster. I think they have a great offense. I think their defense is developing. I like the new head coaching hire, so I'm really, really interested to see how things go down. But nonetheless, I wish you nothing but the best. I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching.